Hello, everybody. I am Becca Lippert. I am a senior product designer, typically in Threat Insights, but I am on a 3-month borrow to the observability team, who have been working in stealth mode, mostly without a designer. Justin Mandel has been supporting them, in addition to also being a product design manager. So this is the first time that they have a dedicated designer. And we are in milestone 2 right now. So one of the things that I'm trying to help them with in a short amount of time is improving the observability settings page, so let me show you what it looks like right now. If I go over to settings and then I should probably say like observability is a way to track the performance of an application, and we do that by providing tracing metrics and logs. It's a way of seeing how long like traces or how long processes are taking when it comes to the performance of a website. Is something taking a long time to process? Why is that? Is that just on the user end? Is it across users? So looking at different metrics and, like error tracking, error rates, CPU load, things like that. And so quick explain like I'm 5 overview of what observability is. And these settings these features will live under monitor. Right now, they're not in GA yet. They're all pre-beta, but essentially, just to give you an overview of, oh, well, that's not great. Tracing, metrics and logs, so they all live under monitor here. So the problem to solve here is that there was some research done where the users were asked to configure logs, tracing, and metrics, and they were expecting to do this under settings. So I hope I'm not just being dense, but I can't find any reference to logs or metrics under monitor or settings. I thought there was a monitor tracing option under settings like that you had to enable. It's a bit of strange UX. I would expect an enable option to be found under settings. And so I just wanted to show what settings looks like right now. If we come over to settings and then monitor, excuse me, they're not yet incorporated. The tracing metrics and logs pages are not yet incorporated. There's some further weirdness here so you have error tracking, alerts, incidents, and then on-call schedules, escalation policies, and service desk aren't mentioned. Because it's a short borrow to the observability team, I'm not going to get into all things underneath monitor. But the problem to solve here is that users expected to come to settings and monitor settings specifically in order to enable these things. We are working on introducing guidance via an empty state on the pages as well, because right now, let's see if I come into something like this. Let me see if I can find. Right now, it's just an empty table. And so that's also another problem we're trying to solve is to help users get unstuck. And so we can tell them that if there's a configuration that needs to take place. Okay, so the question was, what should we do with this settings page? Because we've seen that users want to come here and would expect to enable these things under here. So let me jump over to Figma So at first, my first iteration of this is, okay, let's mention something about tracing metrics and logs. I was referencing the docs page for this. And my first iteration was, okay, we'll add this at the top. So, the order matches the navigation order. And then if you click expand here, there are 2 steps when it comes to configuring these things that you have to take before they're going to show up in the project. So the first one is you need to create an access token. And so originally what I did was I took what's available in the docs. So here are the instructions. Create an access token. You must have maintainer role for the project because that lives under settings. And then you have to configure your application to use the open telemetry exporter. And so that involves copying this code snippet and putting in the namespace ID, GitLab project ID, and that access token. So originally what I did was, okay, simple enough. We'll just mention what's in the docs, but in under settings, right? So step 1, create the access token. Step 2, it's different between tracing metrics and logs. I figured I'll just use tabs here so that they can follow these steps, which is slightly different for all 3. And then I looked at different visual formatting of this. From there, I met with Justin, who's my manager, and we had our sync yesterday, and I was walking him through what I was working on here, and he pointed out something really important and interesting. So basically what would happen here is I create the access token. And I thought I was being clever, like, oh, we can link to it now because it's in the UI and not the docs, right? And we're in that project. And right now this is only project level. So I thought like little things like this would be pretty helpful. But what Justin encouraged me to do was really think about this workflow here. So if I go over to settings and create an access token, I have to set it up with the following scope. And then I copy the value of the access token. So that's stored in my clipboard. Unless I paste it somewhere in a notes doc or somewhere on my computer, my clipboard is only storing that, and you can't go back and get it. So I want to walk through quickly what that looks like. So if I'm following these instructions, which is the only way to know how to configure tracing metrics and logs right now, if I'm following these steps, create an access token. Okay, how do I create an access token? I have to go to search, find my project, select settings, access tokens. Okay, so let's do that. Let's go over to settings and access tokens. I'm coming back over here, create an access token with read API, read observability, and write observability. Let me move Zoom. So I'm going to add a token. Observability token. What was that again? Read API, read observability, write observability. Okay, create project access token. So this is what I get. I have to copy it. It says, make sure you save it. You won't be able to access it again. So unless I already know how this works and I go and paste it somewhere, this is only stored in my clipboard right now on my computer, because as soon as I leave this page, it's gone. And I can't access it again, right? If anyone's had to create a token, you know how this works. But jumping back over to what we're asking people to do in the docs or subsequently in the UI is to then complete the configuration. And so you have to copy this code snippet and enter in the following values. So here where it says namespace ID, I need the top level namespace ID where the project is located. I need to put in the project ID. So chances are there are various tools used for this step. The user has to add instrumentation code in the source code and or install a collector agent on the infrastructure. If they're going to install a collector agent, it depends on the install method. It can be provisioned with a YAML file or script or Terraform or Ansible, or just installed by logging into the server and typing terminal commands. So I have this access token stored in my clipboard, but I'm also being asked to copy this code snippet right here and go into one of these tools to configure this next step. As soon as I copy this, I'm going to lose that access token. So really, really not ideal there. Also, to find namespace ID and project ID, those are things that I'm having to search for and copy and paste as well. So Justin and I collaborated on this a bit, and we were thinking, how far can we take this? How easy can we make it? How much of an ideal workflow can we incorporate now that we're in the UI and outside of the docs? So for the next version, we looked at just incorporating, taking out the values from this code snippet. And what if we could just create that code snippet with the values already in there? So what if we ask them for namespace ID, project ID, and then they create the access token? And then I was like, wait, we are in the project, so we would already know the namespace ID. We would already have the project ID, so we can just bring those in automatically. And then for the access token, what if they go and create an access token, or we can maybe incorporate that into this workflow. And so here's what this looks like. And I haven't run this by the observability team. We have a sync right after this meeting, so I'm going to get their feedback as well. But this is essentially where we landed. So if I want to come and whether I'm configuring tracing metrics or logs, the first step is to create this access token. When I looked more closely at the values required for each of these, it's the same information. You need namespace ID, project ID, and access token. So what if we are able to incorporate the access token as part of this workflow? A drawer would open. My only step here really is to name the token, so it appears on the project access tokens page. But I can already pre-select, or I already have the required scopes pre-selected for me. So I can go in and name it and then create an insert project access token. So that's already done. I can then generate code snippet. And then step 2 would just be to copy this. And that way I have the required variables already inserted into this code snippet. I've got the token there, and I can just copy this and then go into my other tools and paste it. And I have them available here for tracing metrics and logs because it's a little bit different between these, but the information up here that was required to generate this is the same. So I can just easily copy this and then go over to the tool and paste it. So I really like how this developed and how Justin and I were able to kind of iterate on this and arrive at a more ideal workflow. I really appreciate getting a different perspective on like, oh yeah, wait a minute, if they're storing this in a clipboard and then they're supposed to copy something else, they're going to lose that information about the access token. So I thought it was a good like design collaboration, and I was really excited by where we ended up here. Curious what others' thoughts are. Any questions?